Here's a short video on my Omega Speedmaster 38mm coaxial. I just finished summarizing my Rolex watch collection, and this is actually my only non-Rolex watch in my collection. I have had some experience with Omega in the past. My one of my first watches was the Omega Seamaster from the late 1990s. With the blue dial. It was the model that was similar to the one in GoldenEye, but I had the mid-size version with the automatic movement. I wore that for several years. I wasn't a big fan of the bracelet, and I sold that watch shortly after getting my first Datejust. And then I briefly had a vintage Omega Seamaster from 1962, which looked more like a dress watch, and it came on a leather strap, but I didn't wear that very much, so I sold that again. But I was looking for a Speedmaster. I like the look of that, and I wanted to get a chronograph watch. But the original Speedmaster is a little bit big for my wrist. It's 42 millimeters. They did make a Speedmaster reduced, which was an automatic movement, and I think that was either 38 or 39 millimeters. But that's no longer in production, and I think this is the direct successor to that type of watch. So this is a 38 millimeter diameter watch in stainless steel with an automatic movement. I got this from Jomo Shop. It has a retail price of $5,100, which I think is overpriced. But they were selling this on Jomo Shop for I think it was around $3,500. It does come in other color variations, but I like the classic black dial. I didn't like the bracelet so much. It came with this stainless steel bracelet. I didn't like the polished center links, and it's not tapered, so the width is the same throughout. I would have preferred a tapered bracelet, and the clasp itself is not very high quality. So I took this bracelet off of the watch. It was a little bit difficult to get it off the watch because it was really tight on that watch, and I used the spring toolbar to get it off, but it took a while to get that bracelet off of it. I tried it with a dark brown leather strap. That did look good, and then I just recently switched it to a gray leather strap, and I think that works well with this watch. So I've had this for about 4 or 5 months. I don't wear it frequently, but I do wear it in rotation. The dial layout is a little bit different than the original Speedmaster. Some people don't like it, the changes that they made, but I think it looks good. There's a date at the 6 o'clock position. All the pushers on the side are in alignment. The Speedmaster reduced had a different movement, and the center was not aligned with the other pushers, but this has a different movement where they can keep everything aligned. It's a little bit thick on the side, but the smaller diameter makes up for it, so it's easy to wear on my smaller wrist. It's a 38 millimeter diameter. It has some curved lugs with some more polished surfaces, and I liked the look of that. I think it works well on a leather strap, and I think it's a good size for me because I have a smaller wrist. The strap looks a little bit brown in this light, but it's actually a gray leather strap. So the crown doesn't screw out or pop out. It just stays in position. You can wind it manually. It's a really nice movement, very accurate. One thing I noticed with this is if I haven't worn it for several days and it winds down and stops working, if I just pick it up and move it around a little bit, it starts working right away. And that doesn't happen with my Rolex watches. I have to kind of wind that up for 20 times before my Rolex starts up again. But I'll just compare this to my Oyster Perpetual 36 millimeter, and the size is actually comparable. The Rolex is a 36 millimeter and this Omega is a 38 millimeter. But there's just a different case shape makes a difference. But you know, otherwise, the bracelet on the Omega really doesn't compare to a Rolex bracelet. The Rolex is a much better bracelet. It's much sturdier, feels more substantial. The clasp is a much higher quality. It's easier to use, feels very sturdy. So I think the main downside of the Omega is the bracelet, and that's why I'm wearing it on a leather strap. But overall, I think it's a good watch. It looks really nice on the wrist. It has a lot of polished surfaces, but it's comfortable to wear, and I like it so far. So if you have a smaller wrist, I think this is a good watch to have.